Hey everybody, how's it going? Wanted to say hello. And this intro is a little bit different this time because me and Josh are doing them separately. Uh, so we were gonna do a thing where it's like, oh, maybe I'll tell a story and then you can like record like yourself doing reactions, and we can splice those in. But that just seemed unnatural. It didn't seem like we'd be able to pull that off and have it seem natural. So we're gonna go ahead and skip that.
Oh, wow. How interesting.
And we're gonna move right to the interview. So this interview is with Bert of Hoover3. Really cool dude. It was really nice to get to talk to him and get to know him a little bit and hear about their tour. And yeah, so hope you guys have been enjoying the interviews. If there's anybody that you want us to try and track down, please let us know through our socials. Um, yeah, it's at First Names is a Band. Josh will probably get into it in his little segment here. Just wanted to say thanks for listening and love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by a band, and that band is called First Names. In fact, all the music on this episode is theirs. And by theirs, I mean ours. It's Shelby and I's band, First Names. It's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Bandcamp, all the music places. And our main space for digital connectivity is our Instagram at First Names is a Band. So connect with us there. We are a band first and foremost, but we do enjoy doing this podcast show. So if you have any recommendations of guests you'd like to see on, let us know. Hit us up in the comments or leave us a DM, and we will do our best to get them. We'll do the legwork, the email work, whatever kind of work goes into getting people on the show. But without further ado, I do think you're going to enjoy the show today, and let's get to it.
And there you go.
Okay.
Got it. And then, yeah, it won't let me record on my end.
It's okay. It should be recording now, and I can just strip the audio from this.
Go closer if that'll help.
That does help. Thank you, Bert.
Sorry
so
about being late, dude.
it's okay. How are you doing? How's it going?
Good. We're just in this like 1 week limbo between tours where we're just rehearsing because we have for Europe we have a little like bandmate switch out. So we're just like rehearsing every morning basically. So that's where I'm coming from right now. It's just a rehearsal.
Cool. Where do you guys rehearse?
There's a lockout spot called Black Diamond out here that a bunch of
Oh, cool.
bands rehearse at. Yeah.
So tell us about tour. I mean, I feel like you just hit a bunch of like U.S. cities, and then you just did Europe, or you're about to do Europe.
We're about to do Europe.
Okay, and that's why the band switch out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, if you don't mind me asking, who's switching out? Because I mean, it could be like a really big challenge to get like a whole new guitar player up to date or a whole new. I saw you had a saxophone at one point.
Yeah, so the guy who played keys on our last tour, who's usually the saxophone guy, he is playing bass in Europe because our bassist has like kind of other obligations and
Mm-hmm.
so our normal synth guy who couldn't make the US tour is coming back for Europe. It's convoluted, but that's pretty much all we're doing. And we have two shows that we're playing without a drummer. So today was drum machine rehearsal. Wow.
Oh,
Wow,
wow.
but that's kind of your specialty, right? I mean, you started with the drum machine.
Yeah, like older songs are definitely easier to adapt. The newer ones are a little more difficult because they're a little more nuanced and I don't know, trying to like figure all that out in 2 days is daunting.
Dude, I can't even imagine. What? So when you're playing live with just a drum machine, like, what are you just like queuing it up and then you guys are all playing to clicks and or how does that work? I mean,
It's way less complicated than that. I just bring a drum machine and I just run it through like a tuner pedal to like start and stop it. But
okay.
because of like flying and everything, we're bringing like a 909, like a little programmable guy. which just like breaks my brain. Um, so we basically have one beat we've programmed that we're just adjusting the tempo for every song, give or take. Um,
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of it, drum machine wise. Like, I think it's going to be a much looser, kind of more like jammy sort of set as opposed to like our standard thing that we'll be doing with the full band.
Cool. I think anytime I see people utilize a drum machine, especially effectively, I don't know why that just like doesn't compute in my brain. I'm like, how do you get it to, I'm sure it's fairly simple, but I don't know, like it just seems like a difficult. Same thing with like a looping pedal to me. It's like staying right on that and all that.
Well, these like 909s, you like record them to a click. So I mean, it's pretty tough to mess up that, except that I just like don't know how to do it because I'm like technology inept.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
uh, so like I just get one rhythm in there and then just mess with the tempo. And I mean, really, it's a tough thing to play to sometimes, but it's just got to be loud, and then it's
Okay.
fine.
Do you like go down the rabbit hole with like tone when it comes to that stuff, like live, or do you care that much?
No, I want to get something close to like a Casio. That's like my favorite kind of drum beat, or
Okay.
like drum machine drum beat sound. Uh but yeah, I mean, I'm not too particular about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes I listen to like pre-programmed drum stuff and I'm like, damn, this is like amazing tone. Like I don't know, I listened to there was like there's this video of Tame Impala doing uh fuck, what's that song called? The
The
one
cover they did?
Yeah, the cover of Girl Like You. Um anyways, and the tone on the drum machine, I was just like, holy shit, like this sounds awesome. But I don't know, I never dived deep into the electronic drum stuff, but some of it's like really cool to me. I don't
Yeah,
know what I'm doing.
like Big Black, like Steve Albini stuff, like has like really crazy drum machines. And yeah, I mean, you can have a lot of fun with it. I have my favorite thing, and we would do this every now and then with this band. Like we do like a version that's like all like keys and drum machine. And I have like a Hammond Auto Vary that like sits on top of an organ.
Hmm.
It's like a big piece of furniture, and that thing's my favorite. Like it has just, it's so like fat sounding, and it's
Yeah,
like I think it's the dead dude Timmy Thomas. It's like a organ player guy. I think he uses all that Hammond stuff, but yeah, it's just a great sounding drum machine.
cool. Yeah.
So when you were first starting with a drum machine, was it Casio when you first started like making your first record?
No, it was a Yamaha something. I forget the name. It was a drum machine I borrowed from a friend who I since had to give it back.
So you just borrowed it, made an album, and then you're like, here, you can have it back.
Yeah, well, I played shows with it. I had it until he moved,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah, and then when he moved, I gave it back to him. But in that time, I started like kind of like collecting my own stuff. I have a Univox that I really like. That's like kind of the most portable. Um, Pretty standard guy. But yeah, and sometimes like I have like one, various Casios with the drum machines built into them.
I don't really know anything about drum machines, honestly. Shelby here is a drummer, and so like I've never had to use a drum machine, luckily. But I know that you started with the drum machine, and that just like kind of blows my mind as far as like, did you play a show with just you to a drum machine, and then did you have like backing tracks? Like, what was that like?
No, it was way, way more minimal. The early version of the band was me, a drum machine, and my buddy Eric, who played bass. And we both had like Bassman 100s.
Mm.
Uh, and that was it. And then our buddy Jeff started playing synth. And then over time, it just, became more of like a band kind of vibe. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was way more garagey. less like I'm not like a backing track guy. I'm not really, unless it's like a drone or something, I can vibe with that. But I kind of like, if I like things to be more minimal and less like a little more loose, less to like I feel like when you have backing tracks, you kind of have to like, abide by them, and you can't really diverge. And I don't know, I've always felt like that I like things to be a little looser and a little more open.
Right. Yeah, because I would imagine the temptations there, since it could be honestly just a lot cheaper, just like not having real musicians with you. I feel like that's why a lot of people do it,
Right.
And we're a two-piece band, and like we've I've been tempted before to being like, oh, we could have like big bass up here. It could like sound bigger. We could, oh, I really like that lick that's on the track, and it'd be cool if that was there live. But yeah, we've resisted the temptation to go backing tracks. Not that I'm knocking anybody who does it, but I
No,
can
no.
imagine someone like you who's touring around to like maybe be tempted to do that sort of thing.
It really depends on the type of music you're trying to play, really. Like I just saw Jeff the Brotherhood recently, and there's just like guitar through a bass amp and a guitar amp, and it's just like loud as shit. And like, yeah, I mean, it would have been cool to like see a more full band version of that, but it was just as cool, like, with the two piece. And sometimes the limitations make things more interesting live. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be the same.
It kind of is almost like a. I mean, I think separating the live and the recorded version is cool. Like, I like going to see a show and it's like, oh, they did this, it's different. Like, I don't want it to be exactly like the recording. And so I think when you are limited, it's almost like you're forced to do that, and it kind of like makes it, like, oh, well, it's different because it has to be different. There's no option for us to play all these parts.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. Uh, and like, our bassist is like learning all of these complicated bass lines to play with like the full band. And then like today's rehearsal was like, okay, you're gonna do like the opposite, and you're gonna play as minimal as possible, or else it sounds like you need something to like kind of like push with the drum machine, or else things can get kind of like washed out and lost.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's where my brain's at right now. But yeah, we only have two drum machine shows to stress about, and then after that, it's back to business as usual, which is should be exciting. We've been busting our ass to get this new, I mean, semi new lineup going for Europe, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Cool.
and you're touring with Mudhoney, right?
yeah, we're doing like a week with Mudhoney.
That's exciting.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Uh, Yeah, Mark Arm lives the dream, man. He just makes a record and then tours it and then goes back to work at Sub Pop, which is just tight. He just works in the warehouse.
Really? That's sweet.
So, supposedly, yeah. Um, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Um, I want to talk about your new album, but like I'm just interested in the conception of the band. When there's a lot of people, I feel like just wanting to start a band and wanting to be in it, and who's just waiting for the right people to come along. Maybe they're posting on Craigslist, who knows? But you just taking the initiative of like doing it even before the people come, like kind of having that faith of, oh, if I make the music, the musicians will come. That
Yeah.
did you like what inspired that? Was it some other solo artist that you were like I think of like Tame Impala, like the big ones, but was
Oh
there
yeah.
anybody that you were inspired by?
Well, mostly it happened out of necessity, I guess. Like I was in another band, and I kind of I needed like an outlet for myself. Like the band I was in was not like, I wasn't the primary songwriter. I was kind of more like on the fringe of things, which was good for that band, but I needed for myself like kind of an outlet. And pretty much it was just like an exercise of, I would write all the songs kind of on the spot, and and just like record over them if I wanted to change something, or so that's how like the pretty much the first, like, all the tapes are like that until we jumped into like a lot like a band. I just did everything like in the moment while recording, and would just like do it over and over again until I had a version of it that I liked. And I never really thought about, like, I had like ideas of it would be cool to do this like a full band or to play with people, but I never really like was that ahead with it. It kind of just happened uh naturally. Like, we got some show offers that were like, well, maybe we try out the full band, maybe blah 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 is down or blank is down, or and so on. Plus, like, the drum machine shows are a roll of the dice. Like, it really depends where you're playing and who's doing sound. Like,
Yeah.
you're in a lot of other people's hands. Then I used to bring like an like a half an SVT cab, um and like,
To just like really boost out the drum machine sound.
yeah, just so I had like maximum control. I
Right.
never relied on a PA for that, like,
Mm.
because the last drum machine show we played before, I guess the more recent ones, the last one like years ago, uh, we like blew the PA in the second song, and that was like show was over, you know.
Oh.
So what can you do, you know? That's it. Just kind of at that point, it was like, well, like, I'd rather not deal with this headache and lug all of this gear, and it might be more fun to try something different and hear the songs with like an actual band. And then that happened, and here we are.
Cool. So as far as like, it seems like you just were kind of like picking people up as you went, and it just kind of naturally transformed into this like six-piece uh, band here. I think it's interesting because I feel like just like through that process, you probably learned so much about like, I don't know, like putting out fires live and everything. Like, I'm sure there's like a lot of things that go on when you have, especially when it's like, I'm the only guy who can figure this out right now. Um, but I'm a little curious about, so you started, it was just you, then you're picking people up, and you guys have been playing for quite a while now. And I'm wondering, is there any moment that happened along the way where it really felt like you were starting to get traction and like really get things going? Or was it just like, has it just been like a really natural, gradual thing?
Um, it When we were doing like the early drum machine stuff, uh, there was definitely like kind of like, not like this is like being successful, but it was more like, oh, like compared to other bands I'd been in, like people seem to really like this, at least like friends and colleagues and whatnot. Like, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, cool, like getting positive reactions. And then like I went off and did another project and kind of didn't revisit it until much later, until it kind of more became like a band. But I mean, I've been really lucky with the people that I've played with, where like I haven't really ever been in a situation where like I need to resolve something like mid set on stage or whatever, like
Oh,
everyone's
okay.
been a pretty great player. And a lot of what I like to do is just kind of rely on the band, you know. I prefer to be the weakest link in the situation.
Yeah.
And I have been lucky to have it have been like that thus far. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, it really, this past year is the first time things have felt like they're moving in the right direction. It's kind of hard to say, like, things like KEXP that we just did, and like, we're being played on KCRW a bunch, and there's like things like that are like validation, or like,
Mhm.
playing third man, like
Yeah.
having people actually show up to your shows in places you've never
Mm-hmm.
been. Like, that's cool shit, and it definitely feels like something's working. It's easy to get caught up in that and trying to just sort of enjoy things as they come. The Mudhoney stuff is cool, and all the shows we have coming up are really exciting. But Yeah, it feels like just now things are kind of rolling. I think it's been. I'm sure if like you look at things with hindsight, like there's like it's a small slope.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with a lot of musicians, it's like 10 years of like working your ass off,
Yeah.
get any sort of like momentum or anything. And I have the label to thank a lot for that. Um, I mean, without them, who knows where we'd be, and without like the people we've played with and stuff. So it's kind of we'll see.
Yeah.
It'd be like a really cool 3 months, and then you know who knows, and then we put out like a bummer record, and yeah, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, I guess you never know. I don't.
Just got to take advantage of, I guess, people paying attention, and do as much as you can while you can.
Yeah, dude, that's like such a I feel like poignant thing right now because all of a sudden it feels like I mean, shit, like I'm not on a big label or anything like that, but it feels like even like these artists on huge labels are like, okay, like figure it out, do something on your Instagram, go viral or whatever.
Yeah.
Like speaking on capitalizing on people's attention, it's almost like all of a sudden there's this pressure to like create something and just always be like in people's heads all the time. Like do you pay attention to that at all? Are you thinking about it?
Yeah, no, totally. It's kind of frustrating now the way like I feel like I just figured out Instagram, and I feel like
Yeah.
now it's different.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like I feel too much like an old man to get on the TikTok train. I feel like that's like a fleeting moment.
Right.
If
Right.
you're trying to jump on something, then you're already too late. Um, but who knows? Yeah, my I'm kind of romantic to the record cycle.
Mhm.
Like I really like it. I find I find it really old school, like make a record, put out a record, tour the record, make a record, put out a record, tour the
Right.
record. Like, so many bands, so many contemporary bands, like these days are kind of running with that model and doing fun things with it. Like, I mean, King
Mhm.
Gizzard is the kind of the wildest example of like, I mean, they're about to put out 3 records next month, which is
Mhm. Yeah, insane.
I mean, yeah, I don't that's a different kind of, output,
Yeah.
but, I what pretty much we're already done with I would say we're almost done with record 4,
Oh,
uh,
right on.
and hopefully that'll come out next year, and I just wanna be able to put out a record a year and tour off it, like, that's my
Yeah.
goal, um, not so much concern, and I think if you do that, you'll generate enough, like, just natural I don't know, hype is not the word, but
Like momentum.
yeah, momentum, I guess. I'm trying to figure out ways to avoid like being a slave to like the social media game.
Sure. Yeah.
Bands were doing it for so long before we had Instagram. There's got to still be ways to like,
Mhm.
get yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like a weird territory now because it's also like, we're in this thing that no one's ever been before. So we might look back on it and be like, dude, that was crazy. I can't believe we were doing that. And or it might be like, oh yeah, this is how it should have been always. I don't know.
Yeah, time will only tell.
Mhm.
That's beyond me.
Speaking to the thing you said about like okay, so King is and like output those guys, I mean, everybody on Flightlist, it seems like, they're in 7 bands and they're putting out tons of records. We talked to Zach from Traffic Island, and so I
That's
kind of
kind
want
of
to
like
like pose this question, same question to you. Like, so you're working with all these different people in this band, and I think no matter how many people you're working with, there's always some sort of internal pressure to like put out music.
Mhm.
What is that like? Is there some sort of like, okay, this person's working on a song, this person's working on a song. I feel like I got to be working on a song. Is there anything that you guys kind of feed off each other as far as like making stuff and feeling pressure to make stuff in a good way, I guess?
Well, with each record, it's been kind of different. Like first record was us reworking older songs primarily. Second record was like pretty much written 2 weeks before recording because of just a time crunch.
Mm-hmm.
Third record, we had a ton of time because of COVID and everything. So we like really demoed it. And I mean, but songwriting wise, it's primarily me coming up with like the skeletons and then to everyone else kind of like adding things. And with this fourth record, is similar to the second. We just kind of like, I had a group of songs and then I booked studio time and we just rehearsed like twice before that, went in and recorded. I
Cool.
I like I like being creative in the recording process, and I like kind of writing under the gun. I'm not like I'm not really into taking too much time with things. I tend to like start to overanalyze and burn out on stuff. I kind of have to like finish the thing while it's in the forefront of my mind. And
Right.
we've already been sitting on record 4, in my opinion, for too long without finishing it because now I'm having all like these weird anxieties with things that don't really mean anything and that only matter in my brain. And I'm like trying
Yeah.
to configure things and reorder track listing. And I don't know, just having too much time to sit with something can be dangerous.
Totally.
But yeah, no, it's just me coming up with the basic stuff. Obviously, like there are moments in which we're all creative together and we're jamming together, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how it's not like just me coming in and being telling people what to do. Like I'm Kaz, the main bassist, he like writes like all the bass parts, and like whoever's playing guitar is writing the guitar parts, and whoever's this, and we're all kind of working through these like blueprints together, but everyone in that process is creative in their own sense. It's
Yeah.
not I'm not like dictating.
Right on.
It's very collaborative. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
how do you go with the mixing and the mastering and like I don't know how involved do you like to be in the recording process from like mic placement to everything else.
um I would say like all the technical stuff is can go a little over my head. um
Mm-hmm.
I'm like when I record and demo at home, I have like a little studio in my garage here, and I like will sometimes just do everything direct into the tape machine out of laziness.
Mm-hmm.
And for me it's like more about like capturing a vibe and like, do I like the energy of this thing, then like, is this sound good enough to put out.
Right.
So in the studio, we've been going to the same guy for like the past like 4 years or so, and it's been a great experience. And so this guy Mark Rains, he is just an incredible engineer and producer, and we've been really lucky to work with him. And he's really mellow, but like we kind of just like trust him, and we'll like fuck with drum sounds till we get something we all kind of like. And um usually as a band we kind of discuss like what's the vibe of this record we're gonna make, like so sometimes depending on the song or whatever we'll tweak things a little bit differently, but really I'm not hands on in terms of engineering. Mixing is different. Mixing,
Mm-hmm.
I like to let whoever's mixing it take a stab first and then kind of go from there. I don't like to like necessarily breathe over somebody's shoulder if I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Mastering, I really don't. I'm like one of those guys on the internet who like doesn't really understand mastering.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
Yeah.
I mean, I hear the difference, and I was working with this dude Mike Young for a long time, another Australian dude, and it's like he was in that band Total Control, and he does a lot of mastering. He's mastered most of our records and most of the things that I've done. Uh, and I've always just really like trusted and enjoyed his sound. And haven't diverged in a long time. But for this round of applause, we went with this guy Nick Townsend through the label. And I gotta say, man, that's like this guy also cuts the records and stuff, so it's like a totally different process. And uh,
Mm.
it sounds great.
It does, yeah.
Mikey's great. I mean, I'm happy with everything we've done so far. So yeah, but
It's,
I'm hands off on that department.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting talking to artists and seeing like at what level do they kind of let go of control, because we talk a lot about, you know, how much control to have and how much control you want to have and when to give it up and who to give it up to.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. Wanted to hop in here, say hope you're enjoying the interview. Also wanted to say the reason we started doing all this is because we're a band. And all the music on this podcast featured is our music. So if you enjoy any of it, look us up. First names in Spotify or wherever you listen to stuff. Also, if you want to reach out and become part of the community that we're trying to establish here, just at First Names is a band on Instagram is probably the best way to do that. Also, wanted to say if there are any artists or musicians that you want to hear an interview with, go ahead and let us know there. Like DM us or comment anywhere. We'll see it. Just, this thing started to feel like something that we can just provide for people, which is, what we want to do. So if there's anybody that you want us to try and get, we'll try and get them. Okay? We will try. Josh is an email meister, the e-meister. That's what everybody calls him at work. So he's going to send a fat email with PH. So anyways, hope you enjoy the rest of this. And we'll see you down the road. Love you.
So throughout your 5 studio albums, I noticed there was like mock records, permanent records, and now the Reverberation Appreciation Society. Nowadays, it's like a lot of artists are contemplating, should I be on a label? Should I not be on a label? How does it help? And so I know it's kind of anecdotal and there's a lot of variables of whether, how it helps people or not help people. But how has it helped you to be on a label? I know earlier you mentioned they've been helping a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think money is a big thing, that it's not a fun thing to talk about. It's not that interesting, but having to not have to pay for certain things out of pocket and having a label that's down to work with PR, that's down to like, take risks on a 7-inch and do things like that. Like that's the most helpful avenue. And I mean, really, it's like the people that we work with individually are like good people to collaborate with. So like I'm been trying to articulate this the best way. Uh, it it's really just like it's a support thing. You have people who are like not only just like person to person, like encouraging and supportive and like understanding to like what your intentions and goals are, and having the same direction in mind, and then also having like the ability to get things to a place where otherwise we would not be able to reach. This
Mhm.
label like Reverberation that's like so heavily connected with, I mean, obviously Levitation it's the same umbrella, the festival, and so it definitely like opens doors to like all things kind of psych rock.
Mm-hmm.
um but really it's just been like a really great collaborative process. I've always kind of wanted to, like I said, like I romanticize like the sort of like traditional record cycle, and there's something kind of fun about like working with the label, like it's PR and doing like the rollout. Like I'm kind of like I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that. Like it makes sense to my brain.
Yeah.
And I was one of those kids who would like music would come out on what was it, like Tuesdays, and like you'd get that new single and you'd be like, cool, there's gonna be like another single in like another month, and like kind of just
Mm-hmm.
getting stoked on bands that I grew up loving, and like kind of like, oh, and then they're gonna go on tour, and it's like I know now it's a little bit different because things can be so DIY, and this is there's so much music out there and there's so many bands, and it's just like it's inevitable that things are going to change, but it's been really great. And really it's just the support. Like it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Nailed it. That was very eloquent. Yeah.
I'm the best.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm
cool.
not just sitting here being like, it's the money. Because really, we're not making money. Everyone's probably losing money.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing too about like being in a band, man. It's weird. I don't even know when it flips over, and it's always an interesting thing for me, like, because it feels like for so long of being in a band, it's like I'm not making any money. I'm working this other job that I don't really like, and I'm like losing money actively on this. And I don't know if there's any like, did you have any like, were your thoughts on that as this thing has moved forward? Like, has it just been like I just want to do this, so I don't really it's not the biggest thing, or has that been like a big thing to like okay, I really kind of would love this to like flip over so I could make money on it?
Well, we're all dudes kind of entering our 30s or already in our 30s, and money
Mhm.
is definitely in the forefront of our minds. Like,
Right.
it's not a fun thing to talk about, but,
Yeah.
you know, we all want, we all want this to be our jobs.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
and if that happens, like to where we can quit our day jobs and do this like full time, that would be incredible. But right now it's this weird middle period where like if you maybe qualify to get to X, which you could do everything right and still never get there. It all
Right.
depends on like thousands of contributing factors, like, I don't think there's a formula that equates success, regardless of what TikTok thinks. Like,
Right.
um, we're just in this period where like the band is requiring almost full time commitment
Right.
from me and my colleagues, and but there's just like no compensation. It's like
Mhm.
cool, we need your time, but the trade-off isn't quite even, and it's this is a tough period to in a band that I'm sure like a bunch of people deal with, and um yeah, it's just like we'll see how long you can last, how much like the
Yeah.
good opportunities outweigh the sacrifice of slumming it for a month on tour.
Mhm.
Which, that said, we're not like slumming it, but like I would just like this to pay everyone's rent.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know that's all we want, and it's just this weird period where like I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna have to take a quick pause here for our sponsors. Um, a round of applause LP, splattered vinyl, a dish, and sweet ass merch is available while supplies last. If you go to levitation.fm, that's right, levitation.fm. Sorry, our sponsors won't get off our backs. Um, we think a lot about the importance of cultivating a creative community, and I know you said the label is like really supportive, but do you use like the same people for like um, posters and album art? We already talked about like mixing and mastering, or do you try out different people all the time?
um I feel like we're now like up until this point we've been like pretty consistent with artwork, with studio. I try to like, if we're gonna have someone do posters, like for like tours and stuff, I try to have it consistent so that
Mhm.
there's kind of like a flow to things. But now I feel like with the next phase of the band, which is like record 4 or whatever, um, which is just it's on the forefront of my mind because it's like what I'm working on right now. So I guess like I don't want to derail things too hard from a round of applause, but we've been working with you pretty much, yeah, the same core people for a while, and I think the band is we're ready to try something different and to switch it up a little bit.
Mhm.
Uh we've been working with Jesse Fillingham, this incredible artist, and he's done the first 3 records and a couple singles. And I mean, he's helped like establish an aesthetic for the band, which is something that we always kind of wanted, that like, Roger Dean, yes, sort of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're gonna try switching it up going forward. I don't know what that entails. Um, but I know record 4, we're trying something different. Um, but yeah, I think it's important to have some consistency, and not necessarily like about marketing your stuff, but really it's for me as like a fan, like I like to see the evolution of the artist, of the band, of the studio. Like each record we've done has sounded better and better, and
Mm-hmm.
the artwork is getting better and better, and it's cool to see the growth. And I like that changing it at this point is going to like signify like a different phase in the band, I like all that stuff. It's fun to overthink about lore that no one else thinks about.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because, I mean, you can go how many different ways of like different levels of control when it comes to all those things, but being in a band, like, I think you don't really think about that it requires, yes, you have to make music and then record that music and then play that music live, but you also have to come up with all this other art surrounding it. It's not necessarily like if you're a painter, it's like, okay, I painted the thing, here's the thing. But like with music, it's like, okay, well, you guys need a music video now, and you need album art, and you
Yeah.
need single art, and all that stuff. And it's just interesting to see how different people attack that and how involved they want to be with that stuff. But
Videos are a little bit different of an animal. Like for Water for the Frogs, my wife did a bunch of 16 millimeter videos for us, and those were really cool. And then we did one video with our buddy Odie, who we ended up working with on our C music video for Off a Round of Applause. And
mm-hmm.
I like that process. I like thinking about those things more as like isolated.
Mm-hmm.
This is a collaboration of our music and participation and your concept for like a short film, more or less. Like
Mm-hmm.
less than like this is assets for Instagram, like
Yeah, yeah,
I don't really have any interest in that, approaching things that way.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. But we'll see what happens with things. I like discographies a lot, and I like to kind of like go dive into discographies. I do the same with
mm-hmm.
like filmmakers and stuff like that. It's just fun to like feel like the creative evolution
Yeah,
and kind of trace moments in people's lives. I don't know. It's interesting to me.
yeah.
I
That is
read
interesting.
that in your discography that you consider this like your pop record. A round of applause, and I'm unashamedly I like pop stuff. So,
Sure.
and no surprisingly, this was my favorite record from Hoover 3 so far. So, yeah, what do you think about that? And what do you think about like we talked about we talked to the Black Angels recently, and
Oh,
they were
cool.
talking about how their newer music has from their upcoming album. They talked about how they're making music with more pop sensibility than they have in the past, and how that pop can have this negative connotation to it, even though it just means it might be catchy or a lot of people like it. But yeah, what do you think about this being your pop record so far?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I feel like we're on the same page in terms of like what we define as like pop music. Like, I mean, we're not making Zalia record. I don't even know if that's pop, but like uh and we're not making some like bombastic mainstream music.
Yeah.
Uh and I don't to me it's more like just like these are like songs, these are
Mm-hmm.
songs that we're like uh, I want them to be catchy without losing their integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to write like a catchy song for the sake of it. It's more like we went in and we're like, cool, we're going to do a bunch of records with songs, and we want to make sure it flows, and we want to kind of like a song like The Pearl sort of leans into uh like how far can we go into this thing,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
in contrast with something like Out of My Time that's a little more like it got like a Stooges vibe, um but it's a little more chaotic. So I don't know, like it was just kind of that we were just like, let's write songs and take a break from like this. Water for the Frogs is so brooding and so like
Mhm.
heady to me that I needed like a refresher.
Yeah.
And it's like the way that I've noticed, like, because everything is always like staggered, touring and releasing a record. So like, we just did a tour for A Round of Applause. And we've had the most fun playing like first record songs and A Round of Applause. So like my brain right now is like, oh cool, high energy jams. And when we were doing Water for the Frogs tour back in October, we, we were like in a different mindset because we were playing so many of those songs and
Mhm.
had already done Round of Applause, so it was like refreshing to go back and do those songs. So then we made record 4 that maybe is almost more of a companion to Water for the Frogs than it is for a continuation of A Round of Applause, just because like our mindset was coming off of that tour, even though Round of Applause is already recorded. It's weird. We're always like ahead and behind. I
Yeah.
don't know if that made any sense, but
No, it sounds like a proverb or something. There's probably some sort of mystical ancient truth in that.
I will, it's like I remember seeing that band, the Strange Boys. They came to LA once and they just played, a bunch of songs that no one could hear or no one had heard before because it was all like new record stuff, even though they were touring their first record. So
Mhm.
as a fan of the first record, I was a little bummed, mostly just because I wasn't familiar with the stuff. But
Right.
yeah, I feel like it's always kind of like behind like that. There's such a lag with putting music out, just like
Yeah.
physically.
Yeah.
So
It's hard to, like you mentioned this kind of before, but like as far as like just like kind of recording something and almost making it not sit on your brain too long. I feel like that can kind of happen with like the live stuff too. It's like, okay, you're already moved forward mentally because you spent so much time and effort on this other stuff, and then you move forward in your brain, and then it's everybody in the crowd is still back here, and you're like, well, I'm actually up here. Yeah, like that's just another weird thing, I guess, that happens probably regularly with a lot of different bands, and trying to figure out how to navigate that's kind of difficult.
yeah, I mean, we're still figuring it out. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'll let you know when I get there.
Cool.
And speaking of like being forward and behind, and just to try to be present during a show, like, do you have to put yourself in like a certain mindset to like, I don't know, be there in the song because you've played the song so many times, or like mean the lyrics you're saying because you're in a different mindset of when you wrote them?
Uh, Performance wise, I feel like it's a totally separate entity, and I don't, I guess there's a little less emotional attachment to like the lyrical content of the songs. They're like written in a time and place, and then live to me should be like kind of its own. I guess I'm not sure how to answer the question that you asked without going on a really long tangent about something.
That's what podcasts are for.
Well, before I lose my train of thought, no, I don't really need to like get myself in a certain headspace live. Live is like the live headspace, and more it's like
Right.
it's about energy and flow, more than like the content of the lyrics. Or
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's secondary. That's stuff that's already been established on a record. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really up to the person in the audience whether or not they're going to engage with that. I guess I have to sell it, but um, for me, it's like really about energy and about flow. Like I care a lot about set lists. I care a lot about like the momentum of a set. It's a performance, and um, I like to do songs different live. I like to do like deeper cuts, I suppose. Like I really like to keep things like fresh for us. Um, but really, it's like when you see, well, yeah, I mean, when you see like the Stooges or you see Iggy Pop, like any kind of like high energy performance, it's just like beat after beat after beat. I saw the Stooges play back in, man, I can't even remember when it was. It's like one of the last tours they did, and it was like maybe 2011 or something like that. And it was just relentless, and it
Mm-hmm.
was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that like inspiring, just like their energy, like contemporary bands like OCs bring that in a little bit different of a way, but it's like
Right.
it's all about just like, and I don't mean that like every song's gonna be like manic and here. Like we have a lot of mid-tempo songs, so we have to get kind of creative with how we flow the set because it's not all just like high octane like punk jams. We have to kind of like map it out, and I want it to feel like I want the set to have like an arc, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I get real nerdy with it, and because I watch a lot of movies, I like to think of things in like, like a beginning, a middle, and an end kind
Mhm.
of like I want it to feel a little more thought out. Like by the end of the show, you're like, oh, we went there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
Whether or not it's been successful is beyond me, but that's what we're trying to do.
Have you ever tried anything like really ambitious live that just like totally fell on its face?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're probably gonna experience that with this drum machine stuff. um, yeah, I mean, there are songs where like, oh, can't put that one at the end of the set because it can't hit those notes at the end of the show.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, like we did a Hawkwind cover set, Levitation, last October.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a Halloween show. We had like one rehearsal, and we just botched it super hard. Uh, just like real bad fuck ups. I broke a string right away. Like uh we had our buddy Nolan Potter was playing with us, and
Mm-hmm.
he like knows the songs like the back of his head, and it was so embarrassing.
Mm.
I don't know if anyone could tell, but I
Oh
could.
man. Right, 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 right. Yeah. Nolan's like, this was your guys' idea. Like,
Yeah.
no, just kidding.
That was ambitious, and I would consider a little bit of a failure.
That's good. I don't know. Sometimes this is like this sounds so cheesy or whatever, but it is like such a when you do that, when you fall on your face, whether or not people notice it or not, like it just helps so much. Like you learn so much from doing
Yeah.
something and failing, and then just like whether that's preparation or that's how you like even play or interact with people, it's just almost like it's just instant boot camp kind of stuff. So I don't know. At least
Yeah.
there's that. At least there's that takeaway from.
Oh, it's very important to fall on your face every now and then.
Yeah, it's good. You know. Yeah, that's why we do it regularly.
Yeah.
It's all strictly for the learning. You know, people
Yeah.
think it's not on purpose, but it is.
No one likes learning as much as we do.
Yeah, we love to learn. Well, dude, thanks so much for having. I
Yeah.
don't know. We're probably getting towards the end here, but I really appreciate you hopping on here, especially amid your rehearsals and everything. That's pretty.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's been so chaotic today, and just right now, this week has almost been like worse than if we had just like had another week of shows and just
Mhm.
went straight to Europe because like we're home, but I can't really. I haven't been able to like go back to my job. I had like a wedding in the middle of it,
Oh
and
man, yeah.
just it's a little chaotic. So I appreciate you guys being flex with your
Yeah.
time.
No, dude, it's awesome. We're really glad to talk to you, and hopefully we get to I don't know, bump into you Levitation when you come out here. That'd be really
Yeah,
cool.
you guys are going.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we're gonna try and get out there. Rub elbows, all that stuff.
I got a
Schmooze.
lot of awesome shows.
I
So
mean,
many good shows.
you guys just talked to Alex, or which of the Black Angels guys? Like
The whole
Jake.
crew.
The
Yeah.
whole crew was
Oh,
right here
really?
in our living room. We
Yeah.
just
Oh,
did an
because you guys
interview
are
with
awesome.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
that's
fun.
right.
It was
Cool.
nice to talk to him. I think Romero showed up 40 minutes into the interview. We'd fully thought he's not coming, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, hey guys." Wait, what? So yeah, we got them all in there, but
Yeah,
briefly for some.
Jake is like a good friend.
Mm.
He's a sweetheart.
Cool.
Very
yeah.
nice guy.
Yeah, they were all super nice. That was really cool. So
But yeah, I mean, hey, don't be strangers in Austin, and love to have a beer with y'all.
For sure, man.
yeah, man, that'd be cool.
Be great. And yeah, good luck with everything in your personal life. And it's such an exciting time in your career life, like your music career time. So
Yeah,
very cool time to talk to you.
we were talking about I don't know, stuff feeling like it's working, and the two shows we have at Levitation are arguably two of the biggest shows that it's two of the most important bands I think of a band like us to be playing with, and it's a real honor and a privilege, and those shows are going to be nuts. Hope y'all can make it to one of them.
Fuck yeah, man.
Dude.
We're
That'd be
gonna
cool.
we're gonna be like a 7-piece band.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild.
Cool. No drum machine.
No,
So-
I hope not.
yeah.
Well,
Right on.
we always end the podcast the same way. Do you have 2 songs that you would like to recommend to people that are influential to you, or just an artist if you can't think of a specific song? We put them on our Couch Radio playlist on Spotify.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, give me one sec.
Yeah, take your time.
Chick Corea.
Yeah, this is the first Return to Forever. I would just say Return to Forever off of Return to Forever.
Okay, cool. I haven't heard that.
Perfect.
It's heady. And then I was listening to this Total Heat record.
Okay.
A local LA dude. Yeah, Rock and Roll Star is the name of the song.
Okay.
It's I don't know, it's gonna be backwards, but it's rock and then apostrophe N, or no, rock and then N apostrophe roll star.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, he's a Ross in Total Heat's a good friend of mine, and we also have a project we play in together, and he just put out this record, and I think it's really great. It's
Awesome.
probably a little bit of an unexpected vibe compared to a round of applause, but I think contrast is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Cool.
Fantastic additions. Well, thank you, Bert.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
thank
man.
you.
Thanks so much, man. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, no, we'll see y'all in Austin, hopefully.
See you
Yeah,
in Austin. See you, man. Bye. I thought it was good.
I'm having trouble right now trying to think of what Bert is short for. I know it's short for something. Bertram? That's a real name, right? Bertram. Bertlington Coat Factory. That's probably it.